Hello there, it's Jonathan here from HowToWebinar.com, and in this video I'm just going to go over 8 hot tips for engaging clients who are on one of your webinars. Now, a recent survey, shock horror, revealed that more than 80% of people who are on a webinar were multitasking. How bloody rude is that? So, what I'm going to do is go through these hot tips that you can implement right away to make them stop doing that. Number 1, stand up while you're presenting and smile. Now that sounds a bit silly, but you know what? Your energy is actually transferred across through the computer magically, and your excitement's going to come across in your voice, and that's going to be much easier if you're standing up. Number 2, use a stick strategy. Now what do I mean by that? Well, say, for example, you've got something like an audio or an ebook that you normally charge for on your webinar. Why don't you say, hey guys, listen, if you stick around to the end of the webinar, I'm going to be giving you a special link that you can download this audio or this video or this ebook. It's normally $47, whatever it is, but tonight I'm going to give you a special link. All you have to do is just hang around to the end of the webinar. Well, they've got a reason to stick around then, haven't they? Number 3. Now, this is a little bit sneaky. I like to say, look, guys, I can actually tell when you're not watching from my control panel here, so make sure you pay attention. If they think that you can see that, and you know what, if you're using GoToWebinar, you can kind of get a feel for whether people are paying attention or not. So it is true. Number 4. Use polls. This is a biggie. Using polls makes people sit up and pay attention. Now, I was talking about seeing the audience. If you go back and you look at the reports from your GoToWebinar presentation, you can tell that the times when you're using a poll, people are actually paying more attention. It draws people back into the presentation. I think they feel like they're having a lot more input into it. Number 5, use images as much as possible instead of words. Look, everyone talks about death by PowerPoint. Don't murder your presentation. Don't murder the people on your presentation. People respond much better when they're in a higher emotional state, and then you can use pictures to get them into that state. Number 6, follow a webinar presentation formula. Now, we go into a lot more detail in this in our free online training, but basically give them the introduction, build rapport, use the stick strategy, tell them what it is. Put together 2 to 3 pieces of core content. Don't try and include too much because you've still got to get around to doing your transition into your close, because that's, after all, the important part for you. Number 7, break it up a bit. Subheadlines work a little bit like markers in your presentation, and if you can make interesting subheadlines, it's like it draws people back into the presentation throughout. Finally, number 8, use humour in your webinar presentation. You don't have to be a stand-up comedian. Maybe you could share an in-joke or make a bit of fun of yourself. Pete, if you can link that humour to your message, then people will remember it much better. So let's just do another quick recap. Number 1, stand up. Use the stick strategy. Tell them that sneaky little I can see you when you're not paying attention. Use polls, very important. Use images to create emotion. Follow the webinar formula. Use the subheadlines. And try and get a little bit of humour or even a nice little story that matches your message. Look, if you've got any more tips, just let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. For the YouTube watchers, check out the link in the video description. Now, we go into a lot more detail, particularly about how to sell from a webinar. That's in this amazing online training on webinars that Andrew's put together. And if you'd like to register for that, just go to www.howtowebinar.com/online training.